Welcome, everyone. Shalom lecholchem. I have to start with a short apology because I wrote a long presentation, but due to shortness of time, I have to reduce it. One of the most outstanding contemporary American scholars of early modern Judaism, Taya Fishman, pondered over the possible target audience of a widely read anti-Christian polemical treatise of Yehuda Aryeh entitled Magen wa-Hereb, Shield and Sword. Modena, a leading rabbinical figure in early modern Venice, wrote in 1643 an influential but in some passages rather unconventional polemical treatise against Christianity. Having noticed the peculiarities of Modena's book, among which the most curious is Modena's willingness to concede validity to some theological concepts of Christians, Fishman put forward a hypothesis concerning the potential Converso target audience of Modena's book. She claimed that in Modena's writing, we might have been faced with an Italian representative of the once popular genre of Converso apologetic literature. In my lecture, an attempt will be made to refute Fishman's hypothesis, suggesting instead an alternative model of relationship between Modena's book and the rich Converso apologetic literature produced in the 17th century. Sorry, how can I go back? Just this? Yeah? Okay. 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 I'm sorry. I'm skipping to the main body of the lecture. And we are skipping Fishman's refutation and the historical introduction, but I'm going to show you the pictures. Having refuted Fishman's thesis concerning the Italian conversos as a potential reading public for Modena's work, it's a high time I proposed an alternative model of relationship between the book and the Converso diaspora residing in Italy. I think in order to be better in line with historical reality, we have to turn the alleged relation upside down. It was not Modena who wanted to reorient the Conversos. Rather, as I'm trying to show you immediately, his polemical composition was deeply influenced by one of the first conversionist treatises written by a Portugal New Christian who had been living in Italy since a few years then. The man to whom I'm referring to was a celebrated person in his age, named Philotheus Eliahu de Luna Montalto. Montalto, or as he was known before leaving Portugal, Felipe Rodrigues, was born in Castelo Branco in 1567. Having graduated as a physician in Salamanca, he left Portugal, traveling first to Antwerp, some years later to France and Italy. Montalto's reputation as a physician earned him a number of invitations to teach and practice medicine. Therefore, in 1606, he went to Pisa, where a position at the university was offered to him. In 1610, he moved to Venice, and it was almost certainly in this city that Montalto was re-educated to Jewish doctrine and law, and here he openly reverted to Judaism. In 1611, he was invited to accept the position of a court physician by Mary de' Medici, then the Queen of France. He died in 1660 in France. Montalto wrote 3 important medical treatises in Latin, and to my knowledge, he was the first renowned Converso anti-Christian polemist in the 17th century. 4 anti-Christian polemical treatises are attributed to him. The only one which interests us in this lecture bears the original title in Spanish. Sobre el capítulo 53 de Isaías y otros textos de Sagrada Escritura. Modena must have known Montalto's aforementioned treatise, written in all probability in Venice sometime in the first decade of the 17th century, because he, according to the testimony of his own words, had read all writings pertaining to polemics written in Italian, Latin, Spanish, or Portuguese before he started working on his own work. A loosely formulated conjecture could easily be proven, since even in a perfunctory comparison between the two treatises reveals their similarities. The overlaps between the two literary products concern not only the lines of reasoning followed by the two scholars, it is also discernible in the overall structure and organization of the context. Even the biblical citations used in different books seems to have followed the same patterns. Such similarities cannot be attributed to mere coincidence. Modena's treatise, albeit left unfinished, consists of 5 long chapters, each one dealing with a Christian tenet of faith, like the original sin, the Trinity, the Incarnation, and so on. By contrast, Montalto's book is less voluminous. It falls only in 3 parts, dealing with the original sin, the refuted messiahship of Jesus, and the longer explanation of chapter 53 of Isaiah. The interdependence of the two texts can be best demonstrated by a systematic comparison of the first chapters of each book, dealing with the problem of the original sin. The chapters dealing with the original sin in Montalto's booklet cover 9 major topics, of which 8 are discussed by Modena too. Montalto started his treatise with a refutation of the Christian argument, buttressing the dual, physical and spiritual consequences of Adam's sin, based on a verbatim interpretation of an idiomatic biblical phrase in Hebrew, mot tamot, surely die in English, where the verb denoting to die is used doubly in the sentence. Christian polemicists had a preference for using this biblical verse to support their claims that Adam earned by his disobedience a physical as well as spiritual death. Montalto proposed 4 possible ways to interpret the disputed passage correctly. Modena resorted only to the simple grammatical rules of Hebrew language, but both of our authors agreed that the twofold use of the verb mot, to die, means only physical punishment, as it was used in this way also in the Hebrew Bible. To buttress their arguments, both of them cited verse 12:14 in the second books of Samuel and Genesis 26:11. In the second chapter of Montalto stated that the physical consequences of Adam's sin could be passed to his descendants, but not the spiritual ones. As statements he illustrated with the biblical citations taken from the book of Ezekiel. The same line of reasoning, supported with the very same biblical citations, can be found in the 4th subchapter of Modena's book. The third thematic unit of Montalto's treatise concentrated on the righteousness of God. No matter how great human sin is, God's forgiveness is always greater, argued our author. Modena worked around the problem of human repentance and divine forgiveness also in the 3rd subchapter of his book, resulting in the same consequences like Montalto. In the 5th chapter, Montalto assessed the possible consequences of Jesus' alleged incarnation. Provided that God was really incarnated in human body in the person of Jesus, to be able to redeem the condemned posterity of Adam, which part of him really received the punishment, asked our author. The divine, the human, or both? Again, the same questions are re-echoed in the 8th subchapter of Modena's work too. In his 6th chapter, Montalto tried to view the Christian teaching concerning the alleged purgatory a place prepared for unredeemed souls to wait in until the time of his or her redemption. Christians taught that even the souls of the pious went to a dwelling in hell because of Adam's sin until the coming of Jesus. Following in the footsteps of Montalto, Modena refuted this claim with a reference to such famous biblical individuals as Enoch, Noah, and Abraham. Each of them are depicted in the Bible as close friends of God, walking or talking with him. Therefore, so our authors, it seemed to be impossible to suppose that they are condemned to stay in hell until some future time. After some excursion, Montalto continued his elaboration on the original sin in his 10th chapter, dealing with the problem of the damnation of the world through Adam's sin and its alleged redemption by Jesus. It is nowhere indicated in the Torah. Even the gospel text didn't declare it overtly, although such an important event shouldn't have remained a mystery to humanity. Modena followed in Montalto's tracks in his 10th subchapter. The 11th chapter raised the question whether it was impossible to believe that one sin, I mean Adam's disobedience, was atoned for by the commission of a greater sin, I mean the crucifixion of Jesus. Montalto's question and his solution were echoed in Modena's 9th subchapter. Finally, in the last chapter, Montalto put forward an argument against the Christian concept of redemption, claiming that if the world really had been redeemed by Jesus' days, as Christians claimed, the consequences of Adam's sin, mortality, birth pangs, and the evil inclination would have been eradicated from the world. That did not seem to have happened until his time. And the conclusion, on the previous pages, an attempt has been made to demonstrate how deeply the Converso presence transformed the Italian society and culture in the Baroque period. My case study focused on an understudied subfield of Jewish literary activity, on Jewish-Christian polemic. It has been established that the very first conversionist treatise, Montalto's Sobre el Capítulo, served as an example to follow for the author of the most prominent polemical treatise written in Italy, Yehuda Aryeh's Modena's Magen wa-Hereb. As I try to demonstrate, the entire first chapter of Modena's renowned book is nothing but a slightly restructured version of Montalto's booklet. Our finding corroborates the thesis represented by Robert Bonfield and other scholars that the Conversos left an ineffaceable mark on Italy, and not only by their contribution to the economic progress of the country. Thank you for your attention.